everybody, it is Dreadscoper here, and as you can see by the video title, I'm going to be just kind of giving you guys my advice on how I built my team. This is for multiplayer, not really for single player. Single player is very different. The basics of single player is you want to create a lot of plays with blocks, steals, rebounds, so what I would say is the main key for that is to do a lot of play a smaller lineup on single player and play a lot of just do a ton of fast breaks, and hopefully you can also get a ton of steals too. So that would be my advice for single player. Play a smaller lineup and you'll hopefully get a whole bunch of more possessions and points that way. So this is more multiplayer because I think that's more it's more important to some players. So I'm just going to show you guys basically what my skill is right now. I haven't played too many games online. I've been trying to get through the campaign or whatever it's called, the domination mode. So I'm 11-1. That's a pretty good record. Let's see. I won 2 games in Emerald. I think I lost 1 in Gold. And basically, I'm just going to give you guys some of the advice on how I create my team, because you don't just want to throw out the highest overall players, and you don't just want to kind of throw out random players that are, good by themselves. You want to make sure that you have a ton of synergy with your team, and you want to make sure that when you play these guys, you want them to be put in good positions so that whatever position they're in, they can easily succeed. You don't just, let's say if you have a power forward that can shoot a lot, you want to make sure he's also around the three-point line a lot. You don't want to, have him sit around it's stuff like that where, you want to make sure you're putting these guys in positions to win, and you want to make sure you can easily get them in these positions so that it's easy for them to score, or whatever the case is. So basically, I think this duo right here with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson is a great duo to have. I'm going to look these two up right now on the auction house just to show you guys exactly what they are. So I'm just going to go through quickly. So you have some for 8,000. I'm just going to go to 8,000 really quickly, and maybe we can get some that are less. I'm just trying to show you guys basically what the price would be for some of these cards too. Oh, so there's a lot of in the 7s too. Oh wow. So you can get the Steph Curry card, and the reason I would say you want to get the Steph Curry card is it's blatantly obvious. He's a great shooter, okay? If you're down, let's say, by 10 points and you need someone to kind of spark your offense, I'd bring Steph Curry off the bench and just kind of shoot threes with him. Just set a couple screens and shoot some threes. He'll create a ton of offense for you. He's not a great defensive point guard. It's a huge weakness. It's a pretty big risk to play with him. I play with him because he totally helps your offense a ton, and that's something I definitely needed. So you can get him for 7,000, guys, and he's basically a free 15, 20 points a game. It's insane to play with him. Oh, and so now we're going to go check out his duo, his partner in crime. That one is, I'm just going to go to 7,000. There's no way this card is. I just want to show you guys kind of the price too, so that you guys understand that this is budgety too. You don't need to necessarily spend a whole bunch of my team points to get these guys. So as you can see here, you can get Klay Thompson for basically the same price. You're going to pay about 14,000 for these two. And the reason you're going to want these two is because they do have the dynamic duo, and their stats do increase when they are on the floor at the same time. So when you're playing with these guys, really make sure that they're on the floor at the same time. It's not really that hard to do. It's pretty simple, especially if they're in your starting lineup. But the red stats, as you guys can see on the left side, and I think, yep, you see all of them. Basically the red stats are all the stats that actually get increased when they're up. So I'll stand Klay Thompson here for a little bit. As you saw, Klay Thompson is an 83 overall, but when Steph Curry is on the court too, he's actually an 86 overall. All the red stats go up a pretty good amount. And this is Steph Curry's. He's only 1 point higher. Most of his stats are relatively similar, I think, but I mean, it's just a couple points, and it definitely increases the way they play. Especially with like someone like Klay Thompson, where literally he goes up 3 points. He's actually a sapphire player when Steph Curry is, and he is always. I always have these two on the floor at the same time. The reason I have these two starting is because they can easily open up the game for you. If you get a quick, especially if you win the tip off, you just quickly get down the floor on the first possession. You can easily just shoot a three with one of these guys, or make the easy pass to the center for the glitchy dunk. So, anyways, I have these guys now. I'm gonna go on. It's a small forward because I'll just go over the starting lineup. Now, the small forward, I like to have shooters, obviously, at the point guard and shooting guard. If you have Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, I think those are the best two that you can kind of get right now because there's so much offense. At the small forward, you're probably going to need a good wing defender. Now, I completed the domination mode, just the classic one against all the normal teams right now, and I got Shawn Marion. Now, this card is definitely an interesting card because the way Shawn Marion shoots, it's one of the worst releases because he shoots it from his chest and it's very easy to block. But if you only shoot open shots with him, he actually has a really good shot. I can show you some of his stats here. He is a great card. The layup, he has posterizer, so he can dunk on people. I really shoot a ton of threes with him. His open three is 83. So his shot is terrible, but if you shoot it when no one's around, that's when you really shoot it. So, but those aren't really the stats I was too worried about. He definitely spreads the floor. But what I also was really happy about was his defensive stats. And as you see, we're getting to them. Pass perception is 95. Block is 80. Shot contest is 92. Steal is 96. That's ridiculous. His steal is 96 against small forwards. So literally, whenever a small forward gets the ball on the other team, I'm swiping every time. And there are times where he'll just take the ball consistently for possession after possession. And there are some teams that'll play like LeBron James at small forward. And, this guy will, maybe LeBron's driving, you just press square and there's a steal. And it's so nice to have this card because, granted, his other stats, his offensive stats aren't that great because of the fact that his shot is a little off. It's really weird. But his defensive stats are incredible, and I can guarantee you guys that this card has played very well for me. He makes a lot of open shots, very consistent with that if you get his release correct, release close to correct. So he's a very good card to play with. There's the other cards too. This was a card I picked because I already had a point guard and I didn't necessarily need another one. So he is definitely a great perimeter defender. You can always put him at shooting guard. You don't have to play him at small forward all the time. You can put him at shooting guard if, let's say, if Klay Thompson's out and Steph Curry's out. You put him at shooting guard, let's say, if the other team has like Kobe Bryant there or something. You just put Shawn Marion there, and he's a great defender. He's going to get a ton of steals. So it's a great card to play with. So for the small forward position, I highly recommend you get someone that can shoot and that's a very good defender. You don't necessarily need someone that's going to drive at the small forward position. You need someone that can play defense because there's a lot of pretty good offensive small forwards in the league. And, a lot of people are going to have like LeBron James, I think. I think that's a common card you're going to see online. Or they're going to have Kevin Durant, so you need someone that can contest with them. So I think Shawn Marion is probably one of the best cards to do that at the moment. And you don't have to pay any money for him. And there wasn't really too many other Amethyst players that you could get that were like game-changing for me. So, anyways, that's my small forward. Get someone that can shoot, get someone that can play defense, and and he's going to be your role player. He's going to be definitely the role player that he's going to make the open shots. That's what he has to do. So he's put in a lot of positions where if you're running a screen and roll with a power forward or center, he, maybe his defender comes off of him and he's wide open. So you just make a quick pass to him and he can get the shot off. His shot, granted, is from his chest, but it's also like, again, it's a very good shot. You have to take it when he's open. And the thing is he's not just a shooter. He can dunk on people, and he does have a solid layup. So, like I just showed you guys, his driving layup is 85, and his standing layup is 95. He has a pretty good layup. So he can drive too, and he is pretty quick. He is relatively fast. So I would say this is a pretty solid card to get. Anyways, guys, now on to the power forward. Oh, and the way you get Shawn Marion, if you didn't know yet, is you complete domination, the normal domination. You have to get 99 stars on everything, and then you get a pack to open up an Amethyst player. So that's Shawn Marion for you. I would do your research based on what team you want to use, but I think Shawn Marion for me is very good. So now let's go to power forward. Power forward is a position where there is so many possibilities, and it really depends on the way you want to play your team. I have this Josh Smith card here, and based off the stats immediately, he is solid at basically everything. I love this card to death. I would recommend this card to everybody, but he is extremely expensive. He is around like 50-55 MT, but he is one of the better defenders on my team. He is definitely one of the most athletic, and he will score all the time around the rim. He does dunk a lot. It is fun to play with this card, and he can also shoot. So a power forward, the minimum you would want from a power forward is to probably have B mid-range shooting. You need your big men to have mid-range shooting, because the problem that you'll run into is you're going to run into people that have these defensive cards like Andre Drummond. They're going to have a whole bunch of defensive centers that they're just going to have them sit in the lane the entire time, and they're not going to move. So if your guy can't shoot mid-range and you can't space the floor a little bit, it's going to be really hard for you to score with your center, and it's going to be a little painful to play against some of those teams. Saying that, with a power forward, you don't necessarily need to have a three-point scorer in power forward. It helps a lot, especially in pick-and-roll situations, especially with Curry and Thompson. If you have a power forward that can shoot threes, it adds a whole bunch of more options for you. You can start sending him to the three-point line. That'll space the floor so that he'll either have a wide-open shot if you can run the pick-and-roll correctly, and he can either get a wide-open shot or he forces a defender to come up and meet him, and then there's another wide-open person. You make the next pass, and hopefully your team has good ball movement, and you can recognize that, and then you can make the correct passes, and then basically take the correct shot. So it's a great floor spacer to have. So I would highly recommend at least getting C from 3-point, because C you can make. With him, he's not very consistent. It's probably around 30 to 40% for me, which is good in real life, but again, this is a video game, so C is probably good for me. The reason I like this card so much is because of his perimeter defense. A lot of people will do pick and rolls, and sometimes you have to switch. Sometimes you can't just, force the guy to, sometimes you can't just go around the screen. Sometimes you just can't do it. There's two screens set too nicely, or whatever the case is. So if Josh Smith needs to step out on Steph Curry, he has B- perimeter defending. I'll show you guys the stats right now. Actually, I should have done that. As you guys can see, the standing layup and layup are pretty good. Post not so much, but his open shots are pretty good. 77 open shot 3, that's what you're going to be getting from him. He's not really an athletic scorer. You're not going to be taking, fadeaway shots with him. Passing could be better, I think, but actually it's not too bad for a power forward. His rebounding is pretty solid for a power forward, especially a smaller one. But his block is 92, shot contest 88. He's going to be contesting a ton of shots because he is quick, and he has great on-ball defensive IQ for a power forward. Steal is only 64, which is a little sad, but at the same time, he's a power forward. You're not going to expect that. You see all these stats and geez. Not the greatest standing dunk, but he does a lot of driving dunks off of picks. I do a ton of pick and rolls with him and Steph Curry, and it is so much fun to do because very rarely do I have a case where I don't actually have an option to go to. So very good 84 speed, so he's a good. If someone's trying to get in the fast break, he can come and maybe make a LeBron James block or something like that. So just all these stats, 95 stamina helps him stay out. Very just solid player in general. If you can get someone, I would highly recommend that if you need a budget team, this Rodney Rogers card, I highly recommend. It's just like him in a lot of ways. But I mean, not the best rebounder, but he does have other similar stats to him, just at a lower range, and he's a lot cheaper, I'm assuming. I know he's definitely not as expensive. So, anyways, those are the that would be kind of the idea that I like to play with. He's athletic. He can finish around the rim because he's going to be able to do that. He can finish off at the 3-point line, and he's a great defender. So it's really cool to play with him. So that's how I like my power forward. If you want someone like a Kevin Love, you pick someone like Kevin Love who has better defense. You kind of need the defense there because people can exploit big men if they just set a screen. Really, it's not that hard. So make sure your big men do have decent perimeter defense, or at least your power forward. All right. On to my center. The center is pretty important to have. He, I think, needs to be one of the most balanced players. The reason I say this is because his scoring needs to be both inside and mid-range. Again, if you're running into someone like Andre Drummond, who you need to kind of, you need to bring him out. You can't let him just sit in the paint. You gotta bring these guys out. He can post them up. He's been able to post up Shaquille O'Neal and like Elijah, and he's been able to post up everybody and score on them. He's a great guy to get. He's relatively cheap too. He was around 8,000 or 9,000 when I got him. So I'll show you guys his stats really quickly just to kind of get you an idea of what I was looking for. Standing layup is definitely important to have for center. Obviously, you're going to be doing a lot of those standing layups. I think that at least a post fade is good because you're not going to necessarily be too close to the rim too often, but you do need a post fade. That's a very simple move that you're going to be doing a lot, I think, with centers. Post control is, that's going to be probably around where your post fade is. Your open shot mid-range is going to be very important. You don't need an open shot 3 with the center because you're not going to be taking too many threes. You're going to be taking a lot of mid-range shots, though, if, let's say, someone like Andre Drummond isn't guarding you. Maybe they're at the paint because one of your guys just got passed. He went out to the foul line, he just gets the ball, wide open mid-range shot, bam, 2 points. Same thing if you get a pick and roll. You're doing a pick and roll with Steph Curry and Josh Smith. Josh Smith, maybe, you pass the ball to Josh Smith really early at the foul line and he's cutting in. Maybe Andre Drummond steps up to Josh Smith. He starts guarding him. You pass the ball to Al Jefferson, an easy layup there, or you just keep passing the ball until they can't rotate anymore. That's really what it is. You need to be able to you need to be able to rebound. That's a necessity as a center. You need to be able to rebound. Boxing out is a huge thing because of the fact you're going to be playing people like Drummond, where they're just going to bully you on the rebound. They're going to get the ball and they're just going to go right back up with it. You need to be able to box these guys out, even if that means you don't get the rebound with your center. Maybe someone else on your team does. So you need to be able to box these guys out and get offensive rebounds. I think 80s are pretty solid stats for that so far. Not the best, but again, he's such an offensive threat too that, I gave up a little bit of defense for this guy. His block is 75. That's not too important. It's not, it's a fun thing to have because if you have 99 block, you're going to block a ton of stuff. But the shot contest should be above, it should be above 80. 79, it's not that big of a deal. But you want to make sure that if they are taking inside shots, you want to make sure that these guys aren't just getting easy layups in there and just saying, okay, well, your shot contest is 45, so I can just drive every time get an and one. You want to make sure that it's hard for them to shoot. And I think these stats have been working out great for me. He is a great defender. Could be better, but again, for the offensively speaking and defensively speaking, he's one of the best players I've played with. He's just the one thing that I have found with him is, and he has very good perimeter defense too. So, he can guard for a little bit. The one thing I realized is he's not very athletic at all. But offensively, it's not a big deal. Defensively, it is a little bit of a big deal, but most of the time it really doesn't matter. There's been some cases where I played against like Olajuwon and he might go up and get a ridiculous rebound. Same thing with like Shaquille O'Neal. They jump up so high, they just get the ball and they just slam it down. Those, you're going up against these pink diamond cars and it's like, alright, there's nothing you can really do anyways. So these stats are probably good enough. I would highly recommend getting Al Jefferson. So, anyways, onto the bench. Now, if you go with someone like a shooter, one of the problems with Steph Curry is the fact that he can't play defense. So you want to get someone that can play good defense. Maybe you're saying, okay, well, I'm up by 5 with a minute left. I need someone that can play like decent defense. So this is where John Wall comes in, or really any other guard. You want to make sure you have a good perimeter defender at the point guard position, because there's a lot of people that play Steph Curry, like I am, and you need someone that can stay with him. One of the easier things to do with Steph Curry is just double team him. He might make a bad pass. I think John Wall works out really well. The other thing I think that John Wall works out well with is he's so athletic. And I'm kind of just, I'm not giving you guys ideas, I'm kind of giving you guys players. So you don't need this guy to necessarily be a great shooter because you already have Steph Curry as a shooter. You want this guy to be a very good defender, and you want him to be, well, I prefer them to be very athletic no matter what. You need this guy to be able to be a good mid-range jump shooter and inside shooter no matter what. That should be everybody on your team, no matter what, should be able to shoot from somewhere. This guy's more of the standard point guard. He is athletic, he can guard, and he can make plays. So John Wall, very good card. Very nice card. If you just get the rebound with John Wall, you can just sprint down and literally just dunk it because you sprint by everybody. I'll show you my favorite stat with this card, and as you can see, these are the stats. They increase a little bit. These are the stats that are going up, which is pretty cool. You're getting an increase in shot contest, defensive consistency, on-ball defense, driving dunk. This is what got me, the speed with ball. 97, 96. You just sprint by people with this card, and it's so much fun to do on fast breaks. Dave Barnett, I highly recommend you get this card. By far one of the best, most valuable cards you can get. This guy is so good. He can score at the rim. He can shoot the ball. He can play great defense, decent passer, decent defensive rebounder for a shooting guard, decent steal, and he's a good, solid defender on the perimeter. 80 driving dunk, decent, good speed, 80 vertical. He's a very, very, very good defender. Hopefully you guys can pause at one of these moments if you needed to check out this. He's a very solid card to get. There's a lot of times where I'll just put him in. His shot release is a little weird, but I'll say this though, he is a very solid player, and I highly recommend you get him. He's relatively cheap, I believe, and so worth it, so worth it. Again, your small forward position is probably going to stay around the same. Paul George he's Paul George. I think a lot of people know, so I don't need to necessarily explain. You need someone that's going to be very versatile. He's not the best guard, or he's not the best small forward, but he's very versatile. He does everything really well. So if I needed him to play the shooting guard, he could probably play the shooting guard, and he can shoot the three really well. He can also drive. I didn't see what his dunk was, but driving dunk is 77, pretty good. And 70, he basically just has 77s and high 70s all around, really, for a lot of the stats that you really need. So you need someone on your bench that can defend and can shoot again. You know, that's kind of the main thing that you need from a small forward, and that's all small forwards really. Is you need them to be able to space the floor, and you need them to be able to defend. They're not really going to be making too many plays for you. They're going to be doing a lot of defending and just shooting. Again, power forward, same thing as Josh Smith. I already told you guys that Rodney Rogers is probably a card you should pick up. Very solid card. And John Wall also has the thing with DeMarcus Cousins. They both went to Kentucky. And I believe they won the national championship their freshman year, I believe. Or they were somewhat close to it. Now, this card isn't like anything special. If anything, the reason I used DeMarcus Cousins is because he works with John Wall. He's another solid player who can score on the inside, and he has solid post defense. So it's not the best card, and I do need to replace him. But he can hit mid-range jump shots. He can box out very well, and he does get defensive rebounds, which is what you need. And he's like kind of like another offensive center I can bring in to kind of keep the offense going if I need to. He has a lot of big man stats, and that's kind of what he is. He's a big boy, and he will push everybody around and get the ball, and that's about that. Now that's your bench. That's going to be basically your bench. It's going to be like the same thing as your starting lineup, except your guards are going to be a little different. I think you need to change your guards up. You can change up your power forward, maybe have a small power forward, smaller power forward like Josh Smith, and then maybe have someone like Tim Duncan. That could totally work out if, maybe you're facing a big lineup and you need a big guy. But necessarily, I don't need to do that. I feel like Josh Smith works out really well against big men and small guys, so he's very good at doing both. But your next three people are really important to have. You need to have a defensive center. You need to have someone like an Andre Drummond. I ended up getting this Andrew Bogut when I played against the Bucks at one point. Basically what you need is just go down, look at the rebounds, and box out. Make sure they're around high to mid-80s. Very good stats right here. But block, not necessarily a huge thing. 92 is incredible. The shot contest is what you need to worry about. Make sure that when they come in the paint, they don't get a good shot. Make sure that, you're making sure that it's impossible for them to really shoot. That's like this guy's job. You're up by 5 points or 10 points and you have 2 minutes left. You need to make sure these guys can't get an easy shot, or you just want to stop this guy from maybe LeBron James is driving every time and you're like, screw it, I need someone to stop him. You just put Andrew Bogut or whatever your defensive guy is, put him right in the middle, and literally just have him sit there. And you can it's a great strategy to go against people that are driving a lot, and it can stop people from driving and it forces them to take outside shots. So, very good defender here. Very, as you can see by all these stats, just a great card. He's not very good on offense. I didn't even look at his offensive stats. Shot close is 84. He's not going to shoot. This guy is basically going to set a screen and that's it. All right. He's going to get out of the way and hopefully do nothing. So anyways, he can get offensive rebounds too and possibly get a standing layup. But he's going to basically be your defensive guy. He's going to come in for a minute or two, defend the hell out of the other team, and that's his job. Then you put in someone else. Now, this you can kind of play with. Your next two guys can really be a lot of people. I have this Robert Horry card. These guys are going to be specialized cards. One of these cards needs to be a shooter. They need to be someone like a Kyle Korver, and that's this Robert Horry card that I got. He's someone that he's going to open the shot three, very quick release, ridiculous release. He is so fast at this stuff. He can play power forward if I need him to. He can play small forward, a great card to have. Not the best defensively, but he's such a good shooter. And he's not even a bad defender. He works out really well as a power forward, but he also has the strength and the ability to also guard as a small forward. So it's really cool to play with him, I think. So he is definitely a card I would get, and I would put and have him as maybe you need a quick 3 or 2, you have him. And then, but you also have your defensive small forwards. And granted, Paul George probably isn't the best small forward to have, and I should probably, actually, now that I think about it, switch these two out. This is probably a better lineup. And then this guy should be an athletic guard that can really cut. And that's kind of going to be his job. He's going to be a slasher. Someone like a DeMar DeRozan would work out really well. I have this card because I got it in a pack. So I was like, hey, why don't I just use it? So I've been using this card, but someone like a DeMar DeRozan where they can cut in the lane and get a couple, dunks or something where they're just cutting and driving a lot. You need someone like that so that defense has to respect the fact that you can do that. As you can see, he's a pretty solid offensive guy. You want from this card, you can do one of two things. You can have this card be really good defensively, and you got to make sure all of his defensive stats are B+ or higher, or just B or higher. Or I did offense where, maybe I need an extra guy. I just said, hey, screw it, this guy's decent. He doesn't play much, not really that big of a deal. It could really be anybody that you wanted. Just anyone that you think, I need a specialist guy to do something. Maybe he'll play a couple minutes a game where, there's like 2 minutes left in the second quarter, and you just need someone to sprint all the time. This guy's just going to sprint back and forth. Have this guy be really fast and just sprinting all the time. It's going to be really fun to watch. So, anyways, guys, that's basically how I build my team. Hopefully a lot of this makes sense. If you guys have any questions, literally just ask, because I probably have an explanation for it. I'm not saying my team's perfect, but my team also, I don't know if I showed you guys, I was 11-1 so far, which doesn't say too much because I've only played 12 games. But, I'm also 11-1, so that's pretty good. So, anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully this guy, helps you guys build your team and at least play better online. This is the team I've played with online, and I've done pretty well. So, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.